Okay, so we now move on to the VCF section. Okay, so for this part of the module, I'm just going to set this to the mini mono, or let's use the mini poly, and that way we start off with the basic VCF ladder filter, and we can explain it quite easily using this preset. Okay, so this is based off the Moog filter, the ladder filter, and starting off right at the top is the cutoff. And if we just pull that down, that's going to basically start cutting out the higher frequencies. I'm just going to set this to a lower octave because it's easier to explain stuff when we've got a full spectrum of frequencies here. Okay, so firstly, so the cutoff, we can set that wherever we want. And you can hear that sounds really nice, like it's got a really nice growl to it. And then we can switch this between 12 and 24 dB. At the moment it's set to 24 dB, which is a bit steeper. If I click this, you'll see more harmonics pop through. And then we get into these modulation sources. So here we can modulate the cutoff. These both modulate the cutoff using whatever we want here. So at the moment it's set to envelope 2. If I increase this, because of the shape of envelope 2, we've got a low sustain, and the decay is up here, and a low attack. What's happening is the filter's opening and then closing. If I lengthen the attack, you'll hear it open. Bring down that decay, we'll hear it happen even quicker. So it's really important that you understand how envelopes work together with filters in order to create certain sounds. Because once you've got the hang of that, you can really start, making your own sounds, and just that's your basic foundation of sound design that you need to know. Okay, and then getting onto this side, we've got another modulation source. So let's say we have this, and we want to do even more filter modulation. We can select something else. At the moment, LFO 2. And if we increase the rate of LFO 2, you'll be able to hear it more. So that's pretty fun. And then we've got the emphasis, which is basically your resonance amount. And then we've got keyboard tracking. So basically how this works is if we turn it up, lower notes, the filter will be closed, more closed, and then the higher the note is that you play on your keyboard, the more open the filter becomes. If I just disable that. So at the moment we're playing a lower key. And you'll notice that if I play something a lot higher, we're getting a lot more frequencies through. If I turn this keyboard tracking off, it's now quite a lot darker. So keyboard tracking can work really nice on things like arpeggios that are like spanning multiple octaves. Sometimes you have a problem where you're only really hearing the bottom note of the arpeggio because the filter's like really closed. In those cases, enabling keyboard tracking would ensure that, notes that are higher up will be a bit brighter and come through a little bit more. And then we get this FM Ask 1. And that's basically just using FM on the cutoff, on the filter cutoff. So basically controlling this cutoff using the rate of, or the frequency of oscillator 1. And what this does is just gives it, you know, a bit more grit. A bit more growl, so you can, if you want to make sounds like, you know, bite a little bit more, then consider using FM, this FM knob over here. Okay, so the cascade filter is quite similar to the ladder filter in terms of features. The only difference really is that it has this rough and clean switch, and that basically just changes the character of the sound. Pretty self-explanatory, you know. Rough will be a little bit dirtier. I mean, you can barely hear the difference. And then we've got this 12 dB switch over here, and that basically switches it between 12 and 24 dB, just like on the ladder filter where we're switching it over here. Cascade filter does a similar thing. And according to the manual, this ladder filter is a little bit, the cascade filter is a little bit better for things like pads. It's just a little bit smoother. It doesn't have quite as much grunge to it as the ladder filter. I mean, for the most part, it sounds almost the same to me. Yeah. So moving on, we're going to the multi-mode filter. And the multi-mode filter is again quite similar in terms of controls. You know, we've got the cutoff, the resonance, the key tracking, the envelope amounts, controlling the cutoff, and the FM. But it does offer a few more options here. We've got low pass 4, which is the 24 dB filter, low pass filter. The mp2, which is the 12 dB, which both the other filters did have. The only thing that this adds is it's got a high pass and a band pass filter. So the high pass obviously removes low frequencies, as you can see. And the band pass cuts off low and high frequencies. Okay, so that is pretty simple. And then we can get on to the next one, which is bite. Okay, so again, we've got similar controls. We've got the cutoff on this one. We've got keyboard tracking, peak, which is our resonance amount. And then we've got our modulation, and we've got our FM. But this filter varies quite drastically in terms of character compared to the other ones. And this depends highly on the input level of the signal that's going into the filter. So if you are busy working on a sound and you decide to use this bite filter, you probably want to be playing quite a lot with the peak. And then just messing around with these volumes over here and seeing, you know, what sort of sounds you're getting. You know, going a lot higher will give you a lot different character, and also selecting these different rev versions basically will also change the character. You can immediately hear that. This one sounds a bit bassier, it's a bit louder. that resonance can really like almost scream. Yeah, so that filter is pretty cool. But again, it's not very different in terms of controls. Generally, if you know one of these filters, you'll be able to figure out the rest of them. Okay, so on to the next one, which is this UB. Okay, so the UB filter is again quite similar in terms of controls to the rest. We've got the cutoff, resonance, and then we've got like the envelope amounts here for controlling the cutoff. And keyboard tracking, just like with the other ones. FM. And the only real difference is here we've got this morph, which basically morphs from a low pass through to whatever you select here, through to a high pass. And this selector is BR and BP. That's band reject, which is like a notch filter, which looks like this. This is a notch filter. Basically notches out an entire portion of wherever you select. And you can switch it to BP, which is band pass, which looks like... where's our band pass? Band pass will look something like this. Remove lows, remove highs. That's what a band pass looks like. So if we select it to BR, band reject, the filter is going to morph based on this source, LFO2. We're going to have it morphing now between low pass, or if I have it selected to the left here, low pass through here up to high pass, so through band reject to high pass. So it's a very weird kind of sound, but you can get some cool sounds. I'd imagine that you could use something like this on pads too. You know, if you have you know, a big lush pad and you have the filter constantly sweeping around and moving, and then you have some delays and reverbs after that, it'll make it like really dynamic and interesting. So yeah, this is a really cool filter and something that could net some really interesting dynamic sounds. And that's it pretty much for the filters. Next up, we're going to get into the envelopes.